working in financial services. So I worked at a number of wealth managers in London and also worked at a hedge fund. And my primary focus there was actually on the trading side. And since the start of this year, I've been working on Koya with my two other co-founders, Iris and Ben.
Cool, very cool. And so, you mentioned your three co-founders. So, how did Koya start, and who came up with the idea? Since I think some co-founders struggle to sell their idea to potential co-founders, and who brought the other ones into the project, and how did that happen?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, there's loads of people out there online looking to start businesses. And, as Koya was started during the COVID pandemic, we were all still working from home. So there was no way to go out and meet people in person, the usual startup meetups. So Iris and I actually originally met online on a website called Working Startups. And we both came at this from the same perspective, actually. And Ben, our third co-founder, is the same. We've all got a passion for investing, be that crypto, traditional investments. And really, personally, we all were very conscious that not enough people invest. We want more people to invest, but we wanted to start a business that wasn't just a normal, let's say, fintech business where, we're doing another brokerage firm or we're doing another financial advisor type thing. We actually wanted to do something totally different. So we decided to approach this from a passion angle. Everyone has a passion, and we think actually engaging people's passion, making investing more interesting and engaging for people personally, longer term will not only encourage more people to invest, but enable people to have more fun doing it. So in terms of the idea, well, actually, Iris originally was looking at getting more females to invest generally, and she's really passionate about that. And we met and brainstormed a number of ideas around that aspect, and then taking that, I guess, as one of the seeds, and also my interest in investing and my background. Also seeing how family office clients invest in things like passion assets, be that classic cars or watches, and just realizing that no one has access to this sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. So Iris and I put our heads together, and sort of the idea of Koya was born. And shortly after, we met Ben, who also has an interest in this space and was looking at investing in whiskey. He's big into crypto as well. And together as a trio, we settled on Koya, as a concept, and over the past few months have been bringing that to life.
And so, since these are, luxury assets or very delicate and expensive ones, storage and handling are important to keep the value that they have. Do you do any of that, or you rely on third parties?
Yeah, absolutely. So we mainly rely on third parties, but we orchestrate all the operations essentially. So let's use wine as an example. So in the UK, Hong Kong, France, another number of other jurisdictions, they have what are called bonded storage facilities. And these are government-controlled warehouses essentially. And it's extremely sort of helpful, and they're normally used by people in the wine industry. And the wine is stored in the correct temperature, humidity, lighting conditions. And certainly with fine or investment grade wine, you don't really want to move it around. So often when it's bought and sold between merchants or private collectors, the wine actually often doesn't even move. It will stay in the same warehouse, and the name's essentially updated in the database, or maybe the barcode on the box. So yeah, I mean, that's an example on the wine side of how things are stored. And of course, they're fully insured, and it's much more efficient, not only from our perspective operationally to do that, but it's also, I guess, from an investor perspective and also an operational perspective, just a lot cleaner because we know things are being done professionally. The fractional investing model was somewhat pioneered in the US with a number of companies over there, following a rule change with Reg A a number of years ago. And you're now seeing additional elements of that ecosystem. So the Alternative Asset Club newsletter, for example, and various other people who are engaging audiences based around fractional investing. And that's fantastic to see. But, in Europe at the moment, it's very primitive. And, Koya is one of the first businesses trying to tackle these problems and attract this sort of customer in Europe. Of course, there's lots we can learn from startups in the US, but it's that balance of, actually, we're trying to do things a little bit differently. Of course, with the benefit of hindsight, I'm sure we'll make similar mistakes as well. But yeah, I mean, there are valuable lessons. And of course, just generally as well, I mean, one of the biggest challenges for many startups is the cost of acquiring customers. Now, I think we're in a relatively good position in this respect. We're selling something that's really interesting. You know, we're not just selling an ETF. We're selling these iconic assets. They're interesting. People are passionate about them, and I think that can really help us. But we need to leverage that sort of element of the business. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure there'll be many, many challenges down the road, but I think there's a really big market opportunity here. As a team, we're really excited about it. And I think some of it is perhaps more sort of questionable. And of course, lots of regulators are saying this is more akin to gambling than actual investing. But I think certainly from a behavioral change perspective, Europe is catching up relatively quickly with the US. And I think now is actually a really interesting time to be doing this business. And I'm not sure, to be totally honest with you, if it could have worked 5 years ago in Europe, but I think that's changed. And I think for us, that's got us, quite a strong why now.
Now it's the right time. Cool. Yeah. And you told me you're seeking funding. Do you go straight to your network, the, people or, people that might know other people, other VCs, angel investors, or you use, online platforms, which I don't know up to what, degree those work, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's been a bit of a mix. I mean, we're very fortunate in that Iris and Ben, so I'm very fortunate, should I say, that Iris and Ben are very well connected. They've been working in the startup scene for a number of years. And Iris also recently completed the Antler program, which is a startup program, and she did that in London. And through that, she also made some very good connections. So our early angel investors were mainly through Iris's personal network, as well as an introduction from a VC fund in London. I think from our perspective, in terms of fundraising, it's a combination of leveraging our own network, but also leveraging other portfolio companies. So speaking to other founders and getting introductions to venture capital firms from them, and then also just being very proactive around networking. We haven't yet used an online tool, let's say, to syndicate deals, but I think the sort of mentality in Europe is probably a little bit different. And a lot of angels would be very keen once you secure a lead VC to invest in the business. So that's certainly something we would consider. And we've spoken to a handful of them so far, but just haven't actually started using the platforms quite yet. It is a new market. If you're in Europe, the US, there are a number of companies doing this already. But in Europe, it's a fairly new thing. And there's an education piece here. But I think it's really exciting. And as I said, we are going to be data driven. Although we're starting with wine, watches, and whiskey, there's no reason why we can't start fractionalizing NFTs or music royalties, and other income generating assets that people are interested in.
Cool. And so so that would be the long-term vision for Koya, right? Like go to anything that can be.
I mean, we'd love to be the go-to fractionalization platform, let's say, not only for, I guess, the issuance of these items, but also then the trading of them. I mean, one thing that's certainly we're thinking about longer term is the fusion of the real world and the metaverse. So let's say we were having this conversation in avatars, which is probably not that far off potentially. We could be in a scenario where you could be wearing your fractional Rolex watch on your wrist that you're an owner, right? Exactly. And how cool would that be? It's that social capital element. You're seeing people already putting NFTs on their Twitter accounts, and there's an element of exclusivity and I guess almost boasting around some of these things. But as we move more into the metaverse and the digital realm, having the ability to, let's say, have a digital replica of something you actually own, it's verified. I think that could be really powerful, and that's something we could do with this fractional ownership model, and make it accessible to everyone as well. Yeah, I think from our perspective, and I guess it's, as I mentioned at the start, it's one of the reasons we all came together. We're passionate about getting more people to invest, and educating people about investing generally. And if we can get people who would never consider investing in traditional things because they just totally don't understand it, or they find it too overwhelming or complicated, if we can, I guess, plant that seed and get them to put aside a little bit of money each month in something they're interested in, and then longer term that opens up not only better saving and investment behaviors for a lifetime. I think that would be something that's really powerful, and I think all of us as founders would be really happy to have achieved that.